Welcome back, everyone, and in this one I have one of my very last upgrades. I really don't have a whole lot left to do on the Forester, so I have got some OTL off-the-line performance ignition coils, and what a lovely package these come in. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? I'm gonna put these guys in. I haven't really had a whole lot of reviews, so I guess I'll be the first one to do this, put them in, and give a review after I've had them for a while, but this is just going to be the installation. Now, Subarus are notoriously difficult to do this, same thing with spark plugs, so there's a few extra steps besides just popping them out on both sides. It's a pain in the butt. So, first thing we're going to do, pop the hood, I'm going to put the jack up on there. I'm going to grab some jack stands to make sure it's nice and stable, and once we do that, I'm going to take the underbelly plastic off so we can get to the motor mounts on the bottom, so we can lift the engine a little bit to make this job much easier and really just possible in general. All right, once that comes out, I've taken that off about 1,000,000 times before. We're going to come under the car and we're gonna look at these gorgeous headers that I just put in, an oil pan, and well really everything down here. But we are gonna come up and we are going to take off the engine mounts. All right, so underneath your car, you're gonna come up to about right here. I've got my brace across here, and here's my middle piece. That's where I have my jack holding up the car. Right up in here, that is the engine mount right there. We want to take out the screw right there. So there's one on both sides. There's one up there, and there's also one over there on the other side, but my jack stand's in the way. Over there, we're going to take those both out, so when we lift up on the bottom of the engine, it will be pushed up, and that little nut right there is not going to hold on to it, so the engine can move up a little bit, so we can get to those spark plugs or injectors or whatever you need to get to. Okay, so once both of those little nuts are out there, that means the engine can move up slightly, giving us a little bit of room. It's not going to lift it out of your car or anything, but that gives us a little bit of wiggle room. So now I have got to move my jack so it's underneath the engine. I don't want to do it on the oil pan, so I'm probably going to come up here, come right back here and lift it from the back. It's a little far back, but there's really no good jack points up here that I want to do. So we're gonna lift it up a little bit further back and we'll go from there. All right, so I've got my little puck up there, the transmission and everything. Obviously, it's all connection, the engine, transmission, the diffs and whatnot. So once you lift that up, you'll be able to see that lift separately from everything else. It's also gonna lift everything else. But once we come down here, you can see now there's a gap from the engine mount and this frame. So I can actually stick my finger back here. You can see that there's light coming through. So both sides are now lifted up. So now the engine's actually sitting up further than it was. So we can come up to the engine bay. And actually have a little bit more room. Once we get down here, we take some stuff out of the way to be able to go down here and hit those two. All right, so starting on the left side, if you're facing this way, I have probably a different intake than you have, and the stock intake, there's a bunch of different ones. You can take these out if you need to. Definitely if it's the stock one, you have to take it out. But what we're trying to get to is right down here, these two right here. These are the two that we're going to get to and replace. So the first thing we have to do is get whatever is in the way out of the way. And like I said, intakes are going to be a little bit different, so me taking this off really isn't going to prove very useful because most people don't have this one. So I'm going to get that one and that one off. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the clips off. So as you can see, there's two little clips on there. You just have the little button on the top of them. Those will pop out. That'll get the wire harness out of the way. Then you've got a 10mm bolt that's holding them in. All right, so I was able to take both the plugs off. Not too bad. And then the 10mm, this can be a little difficult if you don't have the right tool. I've just got the Harbor Freight Pittsburgh. You can move the head and it's pretty low profile. So I can easily get in here in between the frame and the two not injectors, the fucking coils. Yeah, those things. So now that those are out, now comes the hard part. You're gonna reach your hand down in here and you're gonna pop them out. And then popping them out isn't terribly bad. Mine just popped out. The hard part is actually getting them out. You have to rotate them in a certain way so you can lift them out, because no matter how high you raise the engine, this frame is super in the way. So you just kind of have to rotate it as much as you can, and then it'll come out. So I rotated it this way and came up like that, and there you go. There is your injector. Same thing with the other one. And now I get to replace them with, where'd they go? OTL. Red.
Red means power. Gesundheit.
The hole's on the left-hand side, so it's got to go in like this. Get that in there first. This is so much easier with the engine raised. And you kind of get that squeezed on top of the spark plug. Get that seated in there. Yeah. This is brand new, so it has a lot of resistance in it. You push in on it, try to get it seated as much as you can, and then you kind of give it a little tug out, and it's giving me resistance, so I know that it is grabbing on. Now, I just need to get this bolt threaded. Once I get it threaded, then I can go all the way in, get it nice and secured, and we're done. All right, after getting those popped in, getting the screws, seating the screws is probably the hardest part of this whole thing. Is just putting it in there, finding the threads and starting it. But if you get the coil pack put in there and seated right on that spark plug, anything from there is pretty easy. Get those in, tighten those up, and that is the left side done. We'll just go ahead and plug those in, and now we can start on the right side where we do have to take out a few things. All right, so over here on the right-hand side, we've got to get two things out of the way to make your life a little bit easier. First is the washer fluid reservoir, and then your battery. So for the reservoir, we've got two bolts here. You can either use the Phillips or you can use the 10 mil there, and then you just unplug your harnesses from there, and you're probably gonna have a little bit of a mess. Just make sure it's turned onto its side. And then for the battery, I've just got my two posts here, and this thing will come straight out. I've got nothing else holding it in. And of course you gotta, actually take the battery out. And then the little guys are seated right down there. It's pretty hard to see with all the stuff in the way, but let's get this stuff moved. All right, with that washer reservoir out of the way, you can see we got a bunch more room. You can see them both down here. Battery's optional. I'm actually not gonna take mine out because I'm lazy, but you can get them both from right down here. Nice good angle because we've got everything raised up. Very easy access. So it's the same thing. We're gonna unplug the harnesses on both sides, get that 10 millimeter, pop them out, and replace them with the new ones. I may have said it wrong, and I'm pretty sure I did. Those are 12 millimeter bolts out there, not 10. All right, there they are installed. This side was much easier, more access, more room over here. Even without taking the battery out, I had enough room to do the furthest one over here. So all of them are in, all of them are plugged up. So that means the only thing I need to do is put my reservoir back in, make sure I plug these back up along with the little hoses too. Wherever they went. Oh God, where'd they go? This little guy, connecting to nothing and leaking. That's gotta be hooked back up. And then we'll start this bad boy up and see how she runs. And don't forget to come up under the car after you drop it. Put your nut on there to get your motor mounts back in its secured location on both sides. All right, now that everything is buttoned up in there, it's all plugged back in, we're gonna jump inside, start it up, and we're gonna have a beautifully sounding car. Oh, my battery's dead, you son of a All right, this is fun. So my battery's dead because I left my lights on, so that's cool. I've actually been having this problem a lot lately since I did the subwoofer in the car. So I actually do have something new for this. I actually just got this not too long ago. DB Power jump starter thing. So I've actually never had to use it before now, so let's go on this journey together. I had it charged, so this thing is like a jump starter in case your battery dies. Strangely enough, it doesn't come with a DC output, but it does come with a USB-C cable. I got a 3 amp, because nice. It says right on here how you can use all these. You've got USBs up here if you want to charge your phone or something. It's got a flashlight. I'm really not going to use those. I'm going to use this for jump starting the car. So I've got this thing fully juiced. So it's ready to go. Let's see how well this thing works. So I'm going to plug that little guy in there and hook it up to the battery. And once you plug it in, it looks like you get a little display up here. So right now it's just going in circles. Probably because it's not on, it's not plugged into anything, but that's really cool. So the charging thing that you plug in is actually your display. All right, so it seems pretty straightforward. Got the little display thing on. I'm fully juiced up. And I'll just go ahead and plug these guys in. I get that guy and that guy. That's not gonna work. This is really hard to do with one hand. All right, got that guy plugged in. This is making some clicking noises in here. I don't know if you can see, it's upside down. So let's look at it the other way. It's supposed to tell you how many volts currently has. 11.2. I don't know if that's good or not. So yeah, let's start the car. I guess this is supposed to work. I've never used one of these. I don't know how it's supposed to work. Let's see if it actually works. Woo! I got all my lights on. Oh my god, that was so easy. That's awesome. Well, she starts. So, I'm definitely keeping this in the car. Alright, looks like we're good. We don't have any check engine lights or codes or anything. So we're looking good. I'm going to let this warm up, take it for a quick drive, and see how these new coils performance, I guess. See how they do. They're red, so I must gain 5 horsepower. Well, it looks like everything is running beautifully. Just taking a chill, leisurely drive down the road. I've got no hiccups. I've not got no burbles or any weird stuff that goes on. She's working just fine. So that means my next video, I am going to be doing pretty much the last thing I could possibly think to do on this car for my project car. And that is going to be injectors and a professional tune. So that's going to be fun. Gonna be fun just like this car. Woo! I love giving it little spurts. You're staying with me, buddy. There we go. Link in the description. Fuck!